Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I'm going to get into another frequently asked questions video where I'm going to address 3 comments from 3 recent videos. And I'm going to answer the questions, the queries, the critiques you guys are lifting up. I want to see what you guys are interested in, and this is the way I do that. My name is Dwayne Cunningham. I go by Infidel1258. You can just call me 12. I check out these comments regularly, so leave a comment on this video or any other. And if you enjoy Splinterlands related content or blockchain based video gaming content, then make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks guys, let's get into it. So in the recent video, I did a comment talking about how Rebellion, is Rebellion going to be absolutely necessary for success in Splinterlands after December 5th, once these packets are openable. Somebody was speculating that perhaps that might be the case. And I feel the answer will be no, because you can rent these cards for relatively inexpensively, at least relatively inexpensively. And secondly, I think there will be opportunities to buy certain Riftwatcher cards that other people are sleeping on if you can get ahead of the curve in terms of identifying when the meta changes. And those are 2 ways I think you're going to be able to swing access to this new set in a meaningful way. Plus, I don't really think any of the cards are must-have in every context. They're just often must-have in certain contexts. So let's see what Robbie had to say. Robbie goes, as you alluded to, I would argue that as well that Wild will be difficult to master without a proper Rebellion set, since the sheer number of potential combinations will give rise to, I think, a half dozen or more Wild meta defining combinations. And something like half of those will be strongly dependent on Untamed summoners, especially Kitty. You'll have 3 tiers: players who have mostly full sets of Untamed through Rebellion, players who have one or the other but not both, and players who have neither. I'm inclined to agree with Robbie's kind of thesis here, because one of the things I talked about in my recent videos on Rebellion, I actually think there's something to be, I think Rebellion is going to have a really meaningful, I know we're looking at it from, it's part of the Modern League. It's going to really change the Modern. Untamed is rolling out of Modern and now Rebellion's coming in, and that's going to mean Modern is totally different. And all those statements are true, but simultaneously the Wild format is going to be really radically changed by this one new set. And you think, well, how can that even be, comparable? I mean, in the Modern, we're going to have like 300 cards to choose from. And in the Wild, we're going to have, I don't know the numbers, but call it 600 cards to choose from. So how could you tell me, Dwayne, that Rebellion is going to have as meaningful of an impact on Wild as Modern, or maybe even that it might be more impactful in Wild? How can you say that? And I would say what he's alluded, he said it quite clearly here, didn't he? Since the sheer number of potential combinations will rise, like meaning there will be meta-defining combinations that are possible within the Wild context that are not possible in the Modern context. When you start to imagine what it would look like to pair dual Splinter Summoners in the Wild, because that's going to be possible once Rebellion's here, you start to go, wait a second, any water and any death ever from all of the history of this game can now be partnered, not just the recent additions, but from the entire game can be paired. If I go like this and I check out monsters and I go, I'd have to count these. There's probably an easier way. That's 100, 140. Now, some of them are alphas and betas. I bet there's 200 cards here that are just water, death, and neutral. And it's still going. I mean, this might be 250 cards. I know there's probably a way you guys know that I don't, that is much easier to actually get a final number on that. Apologies for that. But as you can see, as we scroll through, a huge number of cards from just those 3 splinters: water, death, neutral. And we're going to see summoners that bring together a variety of splinters. And so when you start to unlock the connections that exist in there, you can't tell me that the meta is going to be obvious. Like, you can't tell me that there's not going to be huge ramifications that are almost unforeseen now, and that are probably hugely game-changing from the WoW perspective, making the Rebellion possibly more impactful. Because again, it's like the summoner is the power of a summoner like that is maximized when there is more options within each of the relative splinters. Water, death. When there's 100 blue and 100 black to choose from, you have combinations that are crazy and wild and overpowered. When there's 25 of each, there are still some cool combinations that might be really powerful, but there's less. And that's why I really am starting to believe that the impact to wild might be bigger. So let's carry on with what he says. And yeah, one more thing. I agreed with this, but like I just want to expound on it. He says there'll be 3 tiers. Players who have mostly full sets of Untamed through Rebellion. So like essentially all of the recent modern. Players who have one but not the other. Like probably that's going to mean they have Untamed but not Rebellion, because certain people aren't going to come hard into Rebellion in this moment of the market. And then finally people who have neither. And yeah, I think people who have neither could probably, wow. It's just such an interesting time. I don't know how to even advise people, but I think this is a really interesting distinction because Untamed continues to be really impactful. The prices are starting to come down, so it starts to become reasonable to like re-enter that set if you didn't already, if you left it like me. But Rebellion is going to be key in both the modern and wild. Let's finish your comment here, Robbie. There will certainly be a similar 2-tier structure in modern, but it's difficult to see where that line will be until the cards are finalized. I don't think rentals will be as affordable as you're thinking, though the combination of power creep and battle wagons sucking up all the supply for almost a year means that any of those cards, key cards, might be almost entirely unavailable. Okay, this is a great point, and I want to spend, let's say, 2 more minutes on this comment, 2-3 more minutes, because I think there's something here where you're off a little bit. But it's a really important comment. So it's the idea, like I said to you a moment ago as the video began, that rentals for Rebellion will make it possible for you to access Rebellion without purchasing the packs. And that is true. And I believe those will be relatively expensive. I emphasized that word in this video today. And I want to do it again because that it's not that I'm not saying free or cheap even. Cheap is like so relative and subjective. The question really is it worth the power of the card? And that is where, when you start to say that you don't think the rentals will be affordable, you have to say affordable in the context of the powerful nature of the card. So if a card is super broken and absolutely overpowered, it becomes affordable even at high price tags. Byzantine Kitty is an example. It takes a couple dollars to rent a kitty, at least a max kitty, at least it has. Let me see. And so affordable is not, a card is not affordable when it's 1 DC. It's not affordable when it's 1,000 DC. It's affordable when the card gives you a greater degree of power and impact than the cost of it. And that's an important concept that people get confused sometimes. They think something is expensive, like 1,300 DEC for a kitty for a summoner is expensive. It might be if it's not the best summoner in the game, but if it's the best summoner in the game, and then maybe that conversation changes. And you might have heard people talk about, the value of a thing is really interesting. When you imagine the value of a bottle of water, it costs what, $1 or $2 to buy a cheap bottle of water from the local convenience store. And you might think, that's reasonable. But on a desert island where you're dying of thirst, you'd pay almost anything. And so context matters. And I do think we need to recognize when we look at even the battle wagons sucking up supply, as well as there's fewer copies of Rebellion being sold than, for instance, Chaos Legion and Land, etc. You make great points. But the thing I'm trying to illustrate is that the cost of the thing is, one, can be worth it even at a high level. That's my first point. And the second point is, as we start to establish what a reasonable cost is for some of these amazing Rebellion cards, and those targets might be relatively high, like we just saw with Kitty, 1,300 DEC a day. Imagine you say to yourself, well, they're all the cards are going to go into Land and into battle wagons. Only until these price tags start going up. This is a free market. So if you start to see, for instance, cards in the Rebellion set that are really ridiculous in terms of their impact, they will find their way back to the rental market because people will want those rental profits. This is the free market component. If the demand is substantive enough to drive the prices to a place where it entices people to move their cards out of land or out of battle wagons and into the rental place, you'll see an increase of supply because there's such a crazy demand. The demand is expressed by the price point, and that will entice removal from battle wagons or land. And so there's actually a place where none of these cards, there's a price tag where none of these cards, Rebellion, will make it to the battle wagon. I'm not saying we'll get there. What I'm saying is there's again, reasonable price is a subjective term. And secondly, even the cards that make it to the battle wagon can be called out if the price tag is right. So if they help you win 9 out of 10 games, they're going to come to the rental market because the price tags are going to be crazy and you're going to be willing to pay whatever it is. I hope that helps. Let's carry on. Ooh, this is a fun comment. This is the same video, but that's okay. Bananas, thank you for the comment. He goes, we're talking about Rebellion still. And he goes, I think Untamed is stronger than it is. I think people think Untamed is stronger than it is and Chaos Legion is weaker than it is. And that's a really interesting thought because there's sometimes narratives in your favorite sport or game or any sort of like widely discussed topic that you're deeply, you're deeply in the waters of, in the weeds of. Splinterlands is a game, and we're like, you're attending to it in every single day. You may be watching my content, you're watching Aftersound or Tales or, Walking Keys or whoever you're watching, and you're taking in that content and you're hearing a lot of the same echo chamber. And Untamed is clearly a powerful set. Like we could just look at the objective data around like SPLINTERCOACH or something like this. But everything has its place. If you want to use a Byzantine kitty in like a 12 mana match, I mean, maybe that works, but I bet it works. It doesn't work as often as you might imagine. It's an amazing summoner, but when you've got 12 mana, you've only got 5 mana left for monsters. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And so while generally speaking, I think it's accurate to say Untamed is a strong set, it's definitely also true to say we can get carried away with the narrative of it being a strong set. And then we start to compare that, for instance, Chaos Legion, which has a lot of we have a chip on our shoulder about Chaos Legion, which is to say that, Chaos Legion price of the packs has fallen so far and recently was like 70 cents. And there's a degree, and we've heard people talk for so long about how there's too many of them and they're never going to appreciate. And there's the game broke with how many packs they like. This is the sort of tone we bring sometimes when we talk about Chaos Legion. And I think you've heard me say clearly that I do not believe that Chaos Legion will fail to appreciate. I really believe Chaos Legion will appreciate with time. I think it's subject to the same forces that drive and make this game so interesting. There's a limited supply that is actually decreasing over time, and there's an increasing demand to the game. At least I expect there to be an increasing demand to the game. Even with Chaos Legion, applying yes, even to a pack that sold 10, 12 million packs. Now, is that going to be tomorrow, the next day, in a few weeks? I can't predict time. And it's fair to say there was 8 times more Chaos Legion than there were Untamed. And there's probably going to be 5 times more Chaos Legion than there going to be Rebellion, something like that. So across the next couple of years, maybe Chaos Legion lags as compared to, for instance, a Rebellion or an Untamed or something. But that doesn't mean it's not going to appreciate, and it also certainly doesn't mean that it's not a powerful deck in its own right. And especially as you start to see Big Brother Untamed, like Untamed being the big brother, the one that we give all the kudos to, step out of the limelight in the Modern League, I think you absolutely have to expect that the Chaos Legion summoners are going to step up in a big way. The Chaos Legion cards, summoners in particular, are powerful. And they create a lot of... Thaddeus Brood is exceptional. And for this price point, yes, I've said it so many times. It's an amazing card. So is Kelia. Now, my win rate with Kelia in the Diamond or Champ range is like 45. Or sorry, like I win 45% of my matches. But I play it so frequently. It just fits in so many opportunities. Same as Quicks the Devious, exceptional card. Grandmaster Wraith, very strong. Not as important as the other three. I think it goes like Kelia, Thaddeus, Quicks. But absolutely, you know, Immortalis is in that contention for top 3. Again, Immortalis is like only possibly number 4 because the others are more useful more often because of the mana. And then Immortalis like could definitely be in the top 3. I might say Immortalis over Quicks, but Quicks being Dragon means that you get to sort of access more cards. Astral Entity I play all the time. It's absolutely amazing. Shield Paw is exceptional. Possibilis is great. Conquer Yasik definitely has its space. These cards are great. I don't actually... The only one I perhaps don't... The one you know, General Sloan is not a strong summoner. But new archery monsters for the white team or for the neutral team that come with Rebellion could really improve the capacity of a card like this. And when we look at the price point and when we recognize again that some of these other options are going to be disappearing, let's specifically look at white. You know, these guys are gone. Lorna Shine's been amazing. Chancius, I always hate losing to Chancius. But I'm just saying the competition gets less fierce and therefore those Chaos Legions are going to fill a bigger role. 100% true, period. And one more comment. Oh, okay. Let's grab a comment from this recent video where I talked about Golem Overlord. I'll grab a couple because they're all a little short. Okay. Doombot says, great video. I'm just getting into Go. Love where it's going. Learning as I go. Next step, finding a guild. Joined TNA. Boom. It's fun. It's earning. I'm enjoying it. I just started looking into TerraCore. I've heard they're very similar. I haven't touched it yet, but I think I'm going to pull the trigger on that soon too. I'm in like full exploration mode. I think video games are going to be the next big wave in Web3. I think has a major wave coming. In my mind, it's going to lead the way in alts. Like I think something special is coming. I could be wrong, but that's where my head's at. So I'm just trying to like explore and diversify and try and I love Splinterlands. You know I do. And that's gonna be the tip of the spear for me. But I put $100 into Golem Overlord, and now it's paying me 2% a day almost. On average about $2 a day. I put $100 into it. That's 2% a day coming out of a video game. So, and it's still in alpha, and we'll see where it goes. Larry McNary, I notice your rep stays at level 9. Why don't you advance to 10? I just did because you gave me that advice. I guess I got to where I got and I just felt like that was enough. But I'm currently upgrading as we speak, on my way to the next one now. And I'm going to just keep pumping prestige because the prestige is interesting because it actually gives you that 1% bonus on your claims. So prestige affects level. Level affects claim cooldown. It affects battle energy. It affects, percentage bonuses. It's so impactful. So yeah, I'm starting to, I've focused on prestige quite a bit in my first 6-7 months of this game. I'm going to be doubling down even more, trying to get into higher and higher. I just recently passed 150,000 burnt part, which is like puts me into rank 4%. Next is Titan. Look at that. You need 500,000 burnt to access Titan. So I'm going to be, that's a long way off, but slow and steady. Let's read 2 more quick comments. Okay. I liked Go at first, but after their last updates, no one will enter the game at their current setup because new players that will try to enter the game will just feed the top players. Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I can't rebut you on that, Rocky. I don't feel like I have adequate information to push on you on your comment there, to be perfectly honest. I guess one thing I would say, and this is going to feel a little generic. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's not. I'm gonna say it, and you just tell me what you think. I think anytime a new player enters any game that provides blockchain-based rewards for your time and attention, they are always going to be at a worse spot than the guy who entered 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Always. Splinterlands, TerraCore, Woo, Golem Overlord, whatever game, right? Who, if you came in before, you should have a distinct advantage over somebody who came in today. I don't know that it's fair, therefore, to say just because somebody else is going to gain more than you, that means that necessarily you, as a new player starting today, and your potential opportunity for the future are unworthy, satisfying, unsatisfactory. Do you see what I mean? Like, what if you started today and it took you 8 months to start garnering $2 a day? Or even you wait 8 months and you only garner $1 a day. It is still a video game, and it is still a financial reward for time and attention. I guess every individual needs to sort of weigh the value of their time and their effort, and then they need to also look like not just days, weeks, months into the future, but multiple years, and try to imagine what could be. Because if something like this has this long-standing sort of capacity and ability like a Splinterlands, and I do not know that it will. I cannot say that it will. Any of the games that I might be trying over the next weeks or months, who knows sometimes, right? But like, I take a minimal risk and I give something a shot, and I say to myself, I'm willing to take a risk with $100, and I'm just willing to, for me, and for you that might be crazy money. But I'm saying I know what I'm willing to risk. I put it forward and I just double it down, compound, and just wait and see where it goes. And I think having a mindset of the guy who is here before me is going to do better than me will deter you from starting almost any cool new project. Like if you want to get healthy and you know a guy who has a six-pack, you might say, well, I mean, I'm never going to catch up to him. And yet that's just not the right attitude. So it's like you put your best foot forward anyways. Even if you aren't going to be the best, I tell my daughter, whenever she plays sports, whenever she's learning to play ukulele, I tell her, you don't need to be the best, but you have to try your best. And that attitude is like where I try to come at blockchain-based gaming for my own perspective, and hopefully the advice I'm trying to give you right now, which is that maybe you're not going to do as good as like a guy like me who started 8 months ago, but there still might be room for opportunity. And if you don't think so, that's fair too. Because I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to talk kind of generally about opportunity probably is bigger for those who came sooner. In Splinterlands, in Go, and everything else. In Bitcoin, in Ethereum, right? In everything. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Have an amazing day. God bless.